What's your bro I got you moment? This one was immediately reciprocated. My best friend is at a party at my house drinking Dr. GS, etc., and brought this girl he was clearly trying to hook up with. I tell them they can feel free to go up to my room for some privacy. They take the hint and go upstairs. I continue with my drinking and hanging out. About 10 minutes later I hear a slight commotion and my best friend is bringing this girl downstairs by the arm and shows her the front door and kicks her out. I guess they were talking and she was acting a little sketchy to the point that he decided she must be attempting to steal something of mine. So instead of ignoring it and getting laid in my bed, he searches her purse, finds something that belongs to me, drags her downstairs and outside and gives me back my belonging. That's AF King bro. Roommate texted me in the middle of the night. Can't find his car. We talked out which bar he was at and I told him to stay put. Grabbed his spare key, hopped in his car, picked him up. Dude was crossed faded something fierce. Got him home, gave him some water, emergency, and an Advil. Told him to chug and go to bed. Next morning he asks me 2 questions. How did you know where I hid my spares and where'd you find my car? My dude left his car parked in the garage of our complex. I was going to a concert with a friend and he asked if he could bring another friend along. I said sure, and when they showed up together, new guy was wearing a Spose t-shirt. We immediately got along. We had a great time at the show. And I think that was the last time I saw him before he moved back to the middle of nowhere. Some months later he makes an FB post about needing a place to crash back in my city. I had a tiny 1-bedroom apartment but I was happy to share. I worked nights anyway. Took a chance and it was one of the better decisions I ever made. Dude was a solid roommate. He found work in no time. Met the coolest girl ever and they destroyed my futon with their relations. They've been together for years now. And he became one of my closest friends very quickly. TLDR, I let a near stranger move in with me and it helped him make a pretty good life for himself and we became really good friends. Love you. Trav. One time, a good friend of mine called me at about 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was out of town for work at the time. He was homeless for the night, so I called my sister. Woke her up and told her to go give him my keys so he could sleep at my shitty apartment. She wasn't pleased to hear my voice at 3 a.m. but she knew the guy and wouldn't just let him sleep on the streets either. He eventually slept at my place until I came back that Friday afternoon. He's since one of my best and most faithful friends with who I can share my problems, which isn't that many people. I was dating a chick who insisted I meet her 2 friends who were getting married soon. I was pretty chill and so were they. And we hit it off famously. Fast forward a few weeks to the wedding. I'm there. They're taking pictures before the wedding. And he realizes he's left his tie at home. They're starting to freak out and they start trying to figure out the closest place with cheap ties. I immediately yank mine off and toss it to him. Day saved, date slayed, etc., etc. I had gotten downsized the day before, Wednesday. Instead of freaking out, I said I was going to sleep in late the next couple of days. Get through the weekend and then hit the job search hard on Monday. Woke up to my phone ringing on Thursday morning. One of my oldest friends was calling. Somewhat frantic and kept asking if I had plans that weekend. Hey, why don't you come down and tell me what's wrong? She had moved out of state. Her mom still lived in state. Her stepfather had died a couple months before. Her mom was legally blind. Had sold their house and was moving into an assisted living facility. The moving company the family had hired had moved some of her mom's stuff the day before, but had stolen some stuff and was refusing to come back to finish the job unless they paid double what they had quoted. My friend was frantic because her mom had to be out of the house and was thinking about having her boyfriend fly in to help find a new moving company. I got this. Don't worry. Your mom will. He moved today. Rolled out of bed, put some shorts on, rented a trunk, picked up my teenaged son from his mother's and got it done. My son was so mortified, angry when he heard that people had stolen a laptop and jewelry from and were trying to take advantage of a helpless, blind, recently widowed woman that he busted his and we were done in about 6 hours. And when she tried to pay him $200, he refused to accept. Instead, he invited her to dinner with us. A kid's card declined in front of me at Wendy's. I've been in that position before, so I paid for his meal and gave him $50. Dude looked at me like I was God. LMAO. This is a mutual one that still makes me happy. I had a sudden, very dangerous illness. My fiancé and everyone else were overwhelmed. My best friend had just moved to a new city, which he knew bummed me out a bit because he had a choice between that job and one in my city. My fiancé called him to say I was sick. He said he'd be on the next flight and hung up before my fiancé could say no. Less than 24 hours later he was at my bedside, keeping me upbeat, giving my family a chance to handle health decisions. It finally occurs to my family to ask where he's staying, and he says a college friend is in town for the summer. So he's staying there. Then he adds that the college friend had connected my friend to the college friend's sister in the new city and that they were enjoying their time together. Long story short, he later married the sister, has 3 kids, and when he broke his leg last year and couldn't drive, I finally got to return the favor. I flew there and spent a weekend doing his family's errands, watching a dozen episodes of Curb with him, and generally catching up on years of living 1,000 miles apart. So it was this virtuous circle of 3 bros, him, the brother, and me, making life work. I've got tears. Bro. That's beautiful. A girl I worked with liked this guy. He seemed like a decent bloke. He was shy, and she was getting impatient and ready to call it a day. I explained to her how hard it can be for a guy to make moves on a girl, and to stick with him for a bit. He finally made a move. They started dating, got married and had a kid. By all accounts they are very happy. I got your back, John. Wandered into a coffee shop to sit and do some work and relax for a bit. Random girl wandered up to me, hugged me and said, "Hi Ben." I didn't know this girl. And then she introduced me as her brother to some guy she was talking with. I knew immediately what was going on and started talking to the guy. He left after a few minutes saying he had to go meet a friend. The girl thanked me and left about 10 minutes after. If I hadn't have heard about this technique on Reddit before, I probably wouldn't have known what was going on in that moment and might have shoved her off. Honestly, one of my most proud moments that I was able to help someone. Wish I got to do it more. My best friend had been talking to this girl for a couple of weeks that he met on Tinder. He drove her back to her university that was 3 hours away from our city. Unfortunately, at the time, him and his sister were fighting. So his sister cut his phone line while he was still at the university and he couldn't use his LTE to get directions home. He texted me around 11 p.m. on the school's Wi-Fi about his situation. So I picked up our other close friend and had a little unexpected mini road trip to save our friend. We ended up just passing him one of our phones. Bro, I got you. My buddy is the bro I this situation. I got back from a 3rd straight deployment with the military. US, my wife has found someone who truly understood her, you know the drill. After a month or so I approach her and ask her to come back home to try to work on things. She won't come back to the house because of memories. So my best friend who lives about 10 minutes away legit moves out of his apartment into my place so that she has a neutral place to stay while we talk through stuff. Never heard a word about rent or anything. Just, yeah dude, use my apartment. For the next 3 months. Never had a, yeah I got you bro moment like that ever before. Wanted to play Siege with 4 of my mates so we have a 5-man team. But my friend couldn't play Siege as his graphics card was cheap. So I bought him a 1050 Ti and installed it for him and updated the drivers. Now we can all play as 5 and no one's left out. Not sure if this being a bro, or just a decent human being. Walking in the city one day and I was approached by a young Muslim girl looking for directions for a particular bus route and stop. She was visiting for nurse training based on her uniform. I wasn't familiar with either the bus or stop in question. So we went for a 10-minute walk to find it. Having been overseas and asking for directions, I knew how she felt. It is for sure both being a bro and a decent human being. Coming across passed out foreigners in the alleys behind bars. It's happened more than once. And I've always made damned sure to get them somewhere safe with minimal law enforcement intervention. College kids studying on visas don't need to get deported for having shitty alcohol tolerance. I met my current GF on Tinder. We wanted to meet at one of our place for our first meet-up, but I live with roommates and she lives with her parents. And both of us live in area not super well deserved by public transports. A girl friend of mine planned to go to a party one day, so she left me her apartment for the evening and the night so that I could meet my non-yet GF. We had started talking 1 week ago and have the whole night. A bed and an empty apartment for ourselves. And it was my first time too. You clean her sheets at least? First time? Hopefully he mopped up the ceiling as well. A friend of mine died in a car accident last year. I went to his girlfriend and asked for his laptop. I cleared his browser history, deleted his porn folder and went through his pics to get rid of any nudes sent or received. His girlfriend let me do the same to his phone a few days later as she was the second fingerprint to unlock it before we had to turn over that stuff to his parents. I got you. RIP. Went to a Star Wars thing with my sons. Each pass was good for a tour of a mock Millennium Falcon for 6 people at a specific time. We got there 20 minutes early for our time. As we arrived, another dad and his son had arrived with out-of-state plates and didn't know you needed the pass in advance. Crowds were so bad they did that. As security turned them away in front of us, I went, "Hey, I was looking for you guys. Let's go." The security guy looked at me and wanted to call my bluff. I just confirmed that, "Hey, pass is good for 6. Just 5 of us," and we all waltzed through. That kid and his dad thanked us endlessly and I'm pretty sure we made their day. Was a great teaching moment for my kids to pass along good fortune. This one is King solid. At the end of 2015, a friend of mine was having a date in her city and at one point they decided to go to the cinema. Well, it turns out that she was talking all the time about her ex and how bad people treat her even though she would be the nicest person she knew. And even after my friend asked her if she maybe could just try to enjoy the day, she went on. So in the cinema, a movie she picked, he texted me how much he regrets to go out with her and explains where they are and what they are doing. So I decided, since I had nothing to do, to just drive 50 kilometers to them. At the cinema I called him. And we acted like something horrible happened and that he had to come out. When he came out of the cinema, I already bought 2 tickets for the new Star Wars movie, Star Wars 7, and before she managed to get out of the cinema we were in Star Wars. And he wrote her then that he couldn't do anything about it. Because it's an emergency. Best friend's dad caught best friend smoking and came to me accusing me of giving him smokes. I apologized and said I wouldn't do it again. Best friend then confessed to his dad that he took a couple of cigarettes from his stepmom's pack. Best friend's dad apologized to me and said I was a good friend for taking the blame. We were in our mid-20s when this happened.